Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. This afternoon, I would like to celebrate the life of Jeff Nyarota. Born 1951, he died yesterday, 22nd March 2025. Jeff Nyarota will always be remembered in Zimbabwe as one of the few fearless journalists who, soon after our independence, dared to speak truth to power. Truly courageous attribute in a country where the norm is to grovel to power. He stood out and was prepared to speak truth to power. To those who are not familiar with his life, he was the one who uncovered the so-called Willowville motor scandal, in which the ZANU-PF government officials were enriching themselves by using their political power. In this case, Parliament, in its infantile wisdom, had decided that members of Parliament and other public officials could buy cars from Willowville, the plant that had been established to assemble cars and sell new cars. So they bought them at the official price, and because cars were hard to come by, they were able to sell them and make a fat profit. This was soon to become one of the ways those in public office enriched themselves. In this case here with the motor scandal, it turned out some of the government officials, instead of just buying one car for their own use, they bought a number of cars. And then they will resell them, making really big fat profits. He revealed this scandal in the Chronicle, the Bulawayo Chronicle. And in the end, a number of government officials were caught up in that net. As much as Mugabe, who was then prime minister, did not want to admit or to be seen to be backing the corrupt officials, he did not punish those who were convicted, because some of them, when they were brought before a commission, committed perjury by lying under oath. One of those was notably now today Minister of Foreign Affairs, Frederick Shawer. When they were convicted of their wrongdoing, none of those government officials were punished. Frederick Shaw was pardoned by Mugabe, and many others were left off the hook. One of them was the current Speaker of Parliament, Jacob Mdenda. And as soon as the motor scandal was over, Mugabe moved in swiftly to punish Geoffrey Nyarota. He was promoted upstairs, where he was to supervise those who swept the floors and made the tea, as some people called it. It was a promotion, but in reality a demotion. And he ended up leaving the Chronicle. But what he had done was to set the standards for the nation and encourage many others to follow his example. That leaders must be held to account. If many had followed his example, I do not believe Zimbabwe would be the failed state that we are today. There were to be very few cases of journalists exposing the corruption that has destroyed Zimbabwe. Indeed, society at large, we failed ourselves by failing to stand up in support of people like Geoffrey Nyarota for exposing corruption and demanding an end to it. And hence, we are where we are today, a failed state. Here is an interview where he explains about his latest, one of his books, not the latest, one of his books. And just listen to him.
About the quality of journalism, it is with these issues in mind.
Your book, Against the Grain, was launched last year already. You used the platform of Highway Africa to launch it. Yesterday, one of the issues it touches on is the fact that Zimbabwe used to be a bread basket and it's now a basket case. What happened in Zimbabwe?
The main theme of Against the Grain is the history of the country in the first quarter century of its independence. And what I try to capture there is the transformation. It wasn't sudden, the gradual transformation, as you say, from being the bread basket, Southern Africa in particular, to being a basket case itself. And I try to trace how I was well positioned as editor of a number of newspapers to observe from a point of vantage the goings on in government. And I try to tell the story of how, in my view, our revolution lost direction to the extent that it is now devouring its own children. There is suffering in Zimbabwe today, which nobody would have expected 27 years ago, that we would be in such a situation of acute suffering.
In a post-independence era.
In a post-independence setup. You ask, how did that happen? It's a long story. It has to do with our former liberators once they were ensconced in office, becoming so arrogant, becoming so greedy. They no longer think about the majority of the population of Zimbabwe.
But Mr. Nyarota, give us your thoughts on this, and I think we could compare with South Africa as well, which is a fairly new democracy. What the role of the media is in responsible reporting in a way that they're not necessarily breaking down the government instead of helping it grow.
Any media that is doing its job properly has to have a dog role over government. In Zimbabwe, this for the first 20 years or so of our independence, this role was sidelined effectively through government intervention.
Mr. Nyarota, unfortunately, time tight. Let's just squeeze in quickly the fact that...
I think I'll stop it there. The truth of the matter is, Jeff Nyarota was one of the few truly great heroes of Zimbabwe. It is ironic that the scoundrels who tormented him and persecuted him for doing his work are the ones who calling themselves heroes. That is tragic. Unfortunately, the scoundrels have remained in power throughout now 45 years of Zimbabwe's independence, and the country is in total economic ruin. The political system is so corrupted to the point where one can talk of political paralysis. The opposition and the ruling party are a blurred. There's no distinction there. Indeed, the MDC-CCC opposition is ZANU-PF team B in all but name. They failed to implement any reforms even when they had the golden opportunity to do so. And they've been participating in flawed elections, knowing fully well that they're flawed, knowing fully well that by participating they give the regime legitimacy. They've managed to con their followers to participate. And I agree with Jeff Nyarota. Instead of the media educating the people, they have become an extension of the ruling elite, there to brainwash the people. To the extent that even an upstart like Nelson Chamisa can con the people to participate in flawed elections by telling them idiotic lies like CCC is going to win big because I've plugged all the vote rigging loopholes. None of the media houses have taken up on that lie. None. And yet they're supposed to be taking the responsibility of educating and informing the public. To Jeff Nyarota, thank you very much for your contribution to the nation. You are truly a national hero. And may your soul rest in peace. You did your best. You may have been disappointed to see the country come to West as we have done. But it cannot be said that you did not play your part in trying to save the country. You did. Rest in peace, my brother. You are truly the nation's hero. And I hope history will, in time, remember you for it, for your contribution. Thank you.